What's going on, guys? In today's video, what we are going to address is the topic of filming yourself in the gym and how it can be beneficial to you as a lifter, okay? Now, what we're going to talk about is reasons why it will benefit you, okay? Now, the reasons it will benefit you is mainly being able to identify what you're doing well and what you're doing not well. Okay, so for example, let's say you train yourself or you train with someone that isn't very knowledgeable or isn't very interested, okay, or somewhere in the middle. Now, they as a whole won't be able to identify the lift, break it down into each section, okay, and you as a lifter doing it yourself won't be able to notice subtle things. So let's say, for example, you've been squatting for quite a long time and you've got up to a really nice, good weight. Let's just say you got to a 405 squat or a 4-plate squat, okay? And you thought everything was fine. But it turns out, when you film yourself, you are actually not hitting adequate depth. You always thought you were, but when it comes down to it and you saw the video, you're a couple of inches too high. Now, straight away, that is a good reason for filming yourself in the gym. Now, you don't need to film yourself so that, oh, look at me, I'm so good, or I want to show off. None of that. It is purely beneficial to you as a lifter. It will make you be able to see certain things about your lift that you might not be able to pick before. For example, your squat depth. Now, if you'd never filmed yourself and you got all the way up to, say, a 600-pound squat, but you kept going 2-3 inches too high, well, you then 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line trying to address that later will be a much more difficult topic than addressing it earlier, because the motor pattern won't be as ingrained into your body, the neurological efficiencies in the movement, the list goes on. Okay, so that's point number one. You can identify certain weaknesses in certain lifts and things that you might not be able to pick before. You could use the same with your deadlifts, with you are not fully extending your shoulders all the way back, so you're not in full extension or full lockout. Now, you might have not have noticed that while you're lifting. The same with your bench press. You might not have actually realised that your bum is coming off the bench. You might not be able to pick up on that when your weights are going extremely heavy, because I know it happened to me before and I didn't realise I was doing it. But the camera doesn't lie, it sees everything and it can show you subtle little things that you might not think you're doing that you are. And it can benefit you in the long run, because now you're like, right, well, on my bench, I'm going to try and focus on keeping that bum to the ground. I'm going to try and keeping my squats 3 inches deeper. I'm going to fully pull my chest through on the deadlift. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is purely for progression purposes. Okay, so it is cool to see your progression, both on how much weight you actually lifted. So say, for example, 12 months ago, you done a 405 squat or a 4-plate squat. Okay, and 12 months later, you done a 405 squat, or again, 4-plate squat for 8 reps. Now, that is an amazing progression, but you might not realise just how far you've come until you watch the 405 for 1 video. Yeah? So it can also be a very motivating factor. It can also be really cool to see, actually, if you're getting really down on yourself, really hard on yourself for certain things, you can look back and actually see how far you've came, both strength-wise, technique-wise, getting into correct positions, you name it, any form of progression you can think of, you can use it as motivation and fuel. And if you're in a little rut and things are going bad and you're not putting in as much time and effort into the gym and or recovery, yeah, you can look back and think, I was doing so well here, right, time to get my arse in gear, let's get back to that and make that look rubbish in 6 months' time. Okay, so that's point number two. Point number three is, if you are not very knowledgeable or you don't know anyone in person that's very knowledgeable and you can't break down the lifts, Okay, you can't break down a list into certain movements and look at, for example, that your thoracic extensors are a little bit weak, or that your glutes are weak, or certain things aren't firing, etc, etc, etc. Just off the top of my head, for example, Johnny Candido does a really good program where you actually send him your video of the desired exercise, and he will break down a lift bit by bit and give you an extremely detailed response on what's good, bad, needs work, etc, etc, with fixes. And in reality, it costs absolute pennies. Okay, and again, that is just an absolute amazing thing, because you literally, if you don't have access to a knowledgeable person in person, then that is literally going to be the next best thing. It might even be a better thing, because he'll be able to go into a lot more detail because of the knowledge that he obtains. Okay, so they are my 3 points. I understand in some gyms it might be a wee bit daunting, where people, you don't want to film yourself because people might look at you weird or judge you or make fun of you. Now, at the end of the day, screw them, who cares? They're not you. They don't have to wake up in the morning and go to the bed as you. They don't have to be you. They don't have to live your life. And at the end of the day, in reality, the people that are doing that, they're not going to be in your life in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, maybe even 1 year. They're not going to be in your life. So why let them affect it? There's no real reason to let someone determine the outcome of your life, no matter what it be, when they're not even going to be in it and they don't really matter. So screw them. Now, understand that if there's a gym where they don't like, or they don't allow you to film yourself, well, break the rules a little bit. Maybe you can be a little really kind of stealthy with it. I don't know, become creative, because I'm sure there'll be a way around it. So yeah, as of tomorrow, as of your next gym date, start recording the big desired lifts, start breaking it down, and the points I said, use it for those reasons. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been helpful. If you like the content, make sure you like it, make sure you comment down below. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that red button and subscribe. And as always, I will see you in tomorrow's video.